welcome back to the rationalinvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. Back. Nice to see a few of our regulars over there. I don't know whether I'm handsome or not, but I guess we'll leave that up to you, Mr. DDBB. We got a couple house plants in the call. Actually, a single house plant. I wonder where. I guess Meg doesn't join us on the weekends. So anyway, I guess we're in sort of hiatus period right now between school terms. So probably I don't know whether we had any questions in the Q&A document. I doubt it. But maybe I don't know, Chris. Before you take off, oh, there was one. Where's the AMA document? There it is there. I think I have to try and be a little bit more religious about timing here. As you notice, it's about 11 o'clock. I started this today. And I would like to be on the road around noonish. So in that way, unfortunately, when you live in the North Pole here, man, it gets dark so early in the afternoons. So I don't really like driving on the roads after dark here. I think I've ranted about that in the recent past, how dangerous it is. In fact, actually, there was somebody in a fancy schmancy sports car that actually killed somebody on the Vancouver roads here today. So there you go. Just goes to show how dangerous it is here. I have a Q&A document here ready to go. Looks like there's only a single question. If you are a TRIer and you want me to speak directly to your questions, hop on this document. I'll throw it in the lounge here if you really want to add something. So it looks like I have one question to speak to here this weekend. And we do have the new school term up and running. Well, I guess not up and running, but up and registering. I'm actually going to be it's kind of funny actually. Last year around January, end of January, beginning of February, we took off and did a road trip down to California from British Columbia up here on the West Coast, and then we hopped on a plane and headed over to I guess south to El Salvador, which was definitely an adventure, no doubt about that. In fact, actually, I really haven't even heard from that guy that encouraged us to go down there last year. Well, I hope he's doing fine. What was his name? TBG Crypto or something like that. Anyway, hope life is treating him okay. This year, have to go back down to California there because I promised somebody that I would buy them a juicy steak dinner if they stuck around TRI for one full year and learned the process. And I think that they've learned the process. I can't really confirm that until we actually start seeing them posting trades where they're banging out doubles and all that kind of fun stuff. But I did make a promise, and if it's one thing that I'm soon to be a billionaire, hey, well, I appreciate your enthusiasm, Mr. DDBB. I suppose, do I look any handsomer with actually a half decent looking shirt on today? Actually, it doesn't really show up too well on the camera, though, does it? I didn't even realize with the. I guess maybe if I put the background for the website, that color probably makes it look better. Anyway, it felt like acting like a grown-up today rather than just being a degen in my I love those sweatshirts so much though, because we bought the sweatshirts every time we have a meetup. We usually either have a new t-shirt or a new sweatshirt or something like that, and I've kept those sweatshirts. I absolutely love them. In fact, the one sweatshirt with the hoodie that's not the zip up, the embroidering that we did for the TRI logo is just so perfect. I absolutely love that sweatshirt. So I must look like a bum, but what the hell? Looking like a grown-up. This is the world that I used to come from. I remember I used to wear a fucking suit and tie and the whole damn shit every day of the but yeah, oh God, I could tell you stories about living that corporate life. I mean, it's all basically it's a confidence game, right? That's the stock market. It's basically a confidence game. So Joe Sixpack, who's pumping gas or farming, working the fields, they all get schmoozy by the suits and ties and the fancy cars and the fancy dinners and all that crap, and they're all like, "Ooh, yeah, I'll give you my business. Ooh, you look like you're successful." And if anything, I probably don't do myself any favors with my degen look, but if anything, I kind of like it because I used to tell my clients, and keep in mind, I wasn't really that great of a broker because I was more interested in the market than fleecing people for commissions. Um, but I used to tell people jokingly, I'd say, like, would it make any difference if I was sitting here in a diaper smoking a cigar and giving you stock picks? And telling you about these assets that are making W's on bullish divergences at the bottom ends of their trading ranges. And there's probably a good chance that if you buy a little bit of this, we could double your money, get yourself a risk-free trade, and then you got a free vote in the stock market forever. Are you interested? And people go, oh, yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. But remember, I'm wearing a diaper and smoking a cigar, so you better like that. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. All right, so good to see we got a few people there over on YouTube. As I said, probably just about an hour long broadcast here today. I don't really want to go into too much detail. Our newsletter that we put together, if you want to sign up for it, it's a nice little summary. We actually are on to volume 3 now. I don't know whether Chris made that change or not. But this actually technically is our 3rd year now of doing these newsletters, with it being 2025. And you can see the breadth picture here. Interesting how this is now coming in on crypto. And we had this sort of oversold reading there probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, heading into sort of the Christmas break following the irrational exuberance break. And I think we've been basically working our way up. I was leaning bearishly on things like Ethereum. And those bearish patterns broke, and now bullish patterns are working. So, not a bad proxy there for sort of general sentiment in crypto. And we have been buying, at least I've been buying, a lot of the sort of funny little meme coins and stuff on Solana and the network there. I do see capital flowing in there and sort of the meme engine perking up. And one of the little meme names, good old Donald Trump's, one of his proxies over there is actually, it did double from where I bought it. But this actually might be a really good lesson on whether Brian's greed here actually has broken his promise to be the demonstrator of best practices and, always shod. We'll see. I mean, it's not a hell of a lot of money. I don't put a lot of money to work on Solana names. And interestingly enough, there it's just really a function of percent. And we just, we've got like $1,500 or something on the Solana network. So by definition, your risk on any one single investment should be a percentage of your stake. So if the account's worth $1,000 or so, then 5% of that's pretty straightforward. Not allowed to risk more than $50 on any name. And I think that's about how much I have working on that Trump. Anyway, I suppose we can get to it in a minute. We don't have a lot of time here in this hour. So if anything, this will probably just give us enough time to circle through all of these. Just a quick comment and then send you people on your way. So start off with just sort of a look at the sort of state of the market. As I've been suggesting to people for quite a bit now, I do definitely think that the I would say, just generally speaking, the risk market, the vote in the marketplace on what is the general tone of the economy going forward, I think that's probably the best way to describe risk assets right now. I think that they're just nothing more than how does the public feel. That's usually what the stock market is. It's a really good, just really simple measure of how does society feel. Um, and not a big surprise. You go around like communist and socialist countries, right? And stock markets don't really do that well. Because frankly speaking, communist and socialist societies, autocratic societies, totalitarian dictatorship societies, the populace is generally not very happy. So it shouldn't surprise you that in capitalist nations with robust freedoms and democracy, and a lot of the time, but not during these great resets, unfortunately, but a lot of the time, relative price stability. Um, usually in those kind of environments, people feel pretty optimistic about life, and they're willing to take a chance on, in equity investment. So anyway, I generally think that the market should be relatively well bid into this event, and that was basically I think you could basically use this as a proxy for risk in the marketplace, and also, generally speaking, the stock market as well. We are right up at the very top end of our recent range. And I mean, like we're what, 1, 2, 3 weeks away from Bitcoin actually at all-time highs. So generally speaking, that's probably got to be a pretty good environment. Unfortunately, though, and this unfortunately, well, how do you say this? The public, generally speaking, loses money at this game. And half of the reason why they lose money is not so much whether they have a good idea or a bad idea. It's just they have really poor timing. And I see Jim and Liz over there now. I mean, hopefully they've gotten to the point where they can recognize that we're really only allowed to buy W's. Or just think of it simply put as this was a trading range. Market went down, market went up, market went down, did not go to new lows, turned around, went up, then went down, did not go to new lows, turned up, broke to new highs. Well, that makes a W on your price charts, right? And just you could change this to like a line chart and you could see the W nice and simply. If anything, that's the big thing that Jim and Liz had to learn this past year. Don't buy when these things look like this. In fact, actually, this is just about, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this 2024, this is when I first met them. And we were, down in Sacramento. We were all traveling around, having a great old time, spending like fucking $200 at a stupid burger stand, California prices. And I said that I was going to go back and buy them a steak dinner. That dinner is going to cost me a pretty penny. But hey, I'm a man of my word. But the point of the matter here is the buy signal was there coming out of the election. And they had to sit there, and I don't know whether they were able to or not, but they had to sit there and go, okay, can't do anything, not allowed to do anything, not allowed to do, oh, hello, here we go. And you can see very quickly when the W came in and room, up goes price. This happens to be one asset. I can show you at least a dozen of these little altcoins and speculative stocks and stuff that when this happened on this big index proxy, I don't know whether index is the right word, but when this thing happened on this big market leader, well, a lot of the little ones all went absolutely crazy. And you can make the same argument in the stock market. I know Adam got them to buy one stock in particular that I was touting and I never did buy, and the goddamn thing went fucking crazy. Missed it by that much. Well, that's the way it goes. Next bus in 10 minutes, as they say. So anyway, the point here is, do you see a W on your screen right now? No. So why are you in there buying? I don't know. The guy on TV said it was a good buy here. Come on. So, and the good part about it is most of this audience, there's let's see who we've got in the audience today. I always like to sort of give a shout out. We've got Goose, who always posts, oh, Brian is so awesome in his analysis and he's the man and stuff. So thank you for those awesome posts, Mr. Goose. DDBB heard me talking to him earlier. Hello there, sir. Constantine, of course, he's fairly consistent. There's Adam. Adam and his Sacramento slap. Dave Destroyer Stud Muffin. Wow, there's a name. Digibite to the moon. Yeah, well, Digi's done very well here over the years. Cycle in, cycle out. If anything, I see a lot of, it's not really like anything's really different here. It's just rinse and repeat. I'd be curious I haven't looked at Digi in a while. There's that Ethereum bullish bot now that it looks like we have working here now. Digi, DGB. God, I remember trading this on Trex a million years ago. Digi on Binance. Unfortunately, I'm up here in this communist shithole of a country, and the commie leaders here have really actually, I wouldn't even know if the US is any better than Canada in this regards. The socialists here. In fact, there was a tweet that I put out here recently. I actually think that Mr. Trudeau in my country, I actually think he should be criminally held responsible for the destruction of our country. The blatant destruction of our nation's treasury. He never had permission. He never had a mandate from the public to do any of this. And he has literally stolen hundreds of billions of dollars and literally mortgaged his kids. Although, if I'm not mistaken, I think he has Cuban citizenship. If I'm correct there. So I'm not quite sure where his kids would actually call home. But for generations, we are going to be living with the scar of what this son of a bitch has done to our country. In fact, actually, there's great graphics, and it's kind of a funny joke on the internet now, when it shouldn't be, because we used to be a pretty respectable place. But and of course, Brian's going to get triggered by all this crap. Where the hell was that? I can't even remember. Was it this page? Yeah. I was even, and it was great to see Michael J. Fox got the Presidential Medal of Freedom or whatever it is. But at the same time, too, Biden gave Hillary Clinton the same award. In one stroke, he looks like an absolute gem of a person. Way to go, Mr. Biden, doing the right thing. And then he goes and just, and he gave it to George Soros, too. I mean, of all the un-American people there are in the world and the people who are trying to destroy our society, the George Soros, give me a fucking break. Oh, well, anyway, that's here nor there. What I wanted to just show you was I did find it interesting that this was actually being, passed around the world as kind of a joke. Look at these idiots up here. Now, the country of Canada, let's see if this even loads. The entire country of Canada actually has a worse standard of living than the state of Mississippi. That's how this guy has completely destroyed our country. Just to close your eyes and imagine what's a typical person in the state of Mississippi. What's their life like? And if you've ever seen any video from Mississippi, oh boy, they live a challenging life down there. And the entire country of China, their standard of living is lower than Mississippi. I mean, how fucking pathetic is that? Thank you, you stupid bastard. And really, the irony of it all is I think he actually is a bastard. So, anyway, I'll leave it at that. No sense in wasting any more time talking about that. Anyway, so with regard to Bitcoin, we do have this big election event coming up here. And so I'm kind of thinking that this is almost like a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of scenario here. What I'm worried about is, you can see we've got a bit of a head of steam behind us here on this last week. I would not be surprised if through this coming week, especially with Mr. Biden's sort of stopping all of Washington so that everybody can mourn Jimmy Carter, The irony of it all is that when Jimmy Carter was president and when he lost the election in 1980, I remember that the American populace, they literally wanted to fucking hang him. They were so embarrassed by him. He was just the laughing stock of the world. So it's so ironic, these stupid humans, how they change their tune. Now we're going to go through a week where everybody's going to talk about how wonderful Jimmy Carter was. I mean, God, it's bizarre how these humans act. Anyway, it is what it is. I don't know whether you call it a Hallmark holiday or not. Obviously, somebody passed. You know me, I live in the shadow of my wife's death for 14 years now. So death isn't anything fun at all. That's for damn sure. Um, Having said that, I don't know. The Americans do like to sort of wrap themselves in the flag, and I actually think that this was kind of done on purpose to try and take away from the sort of euphoric enthusiasm of Mr. Trump's event here in 2 weeks' time. Maybe sort of one of the last ways that the Democrats can steal a little bit of thunder. Who knows? That's obviously a pretty loaded statement of me. Having said that, I would not be surprised if through this coming week and the next week, because keep in mind the inauguration's technically in a couple weeks, right? We're going to be here. I think this is your sort of pump push finish. Also, too, if you're a fan of the January barometer, January barometer works pretty well to sort of give you a guide of what, generally speaking, the coming year is going to look like. And if you think about it, the stock market usually goes up, buy when it snows, sell when it goes, that kind of talk. So the very beginning of the year, usually you have a relatively firm market. Then as we go sort of halfway through the year, you get a bit of a dip, sell in, May in, walk away. You've probably heard Brian say that once or twice before. Because last year was an election year, right? And on balance, I think that the U.S. economy, I find this fascinating. It's a little bit of a head scratcher, and it does make sense that if you're around the world right now, the entire world is going to hell in a handbasket because the CCP commie fuckheads aren't getting what they wanted, right? They wanted to have the United States of America buckle under Winnie the Pooh's heel, become sort of like a vassal state to the Chinese. Of course, in my country, and let's not open that can of worms again, they already are. I mean, China set up fucking whorehouses just north of our biggest city and conned all the politicians to come in there and get drunk and take compromising pictures of them, and basically blackmail most of our our current politicians. Hey, it's a huge scandal that's going on in my country, but the people in power, they got about 10 different scandals that are going on right now, and any one of them over history would have brought the government to its knees. Why these cocksuckers are still in power now, I can't figure this out at all. But anyway, that's here and there. What I was just going to simply say was, uh, I think that sort of it was business as usual, and then Mr. Trump came along here, and I do think that he basically upset the apple cart for sort of that 1%. Like, how ironic, George Soros is getting the big medal of dickheadness, and that I think he's directly responsible for a lot of this sort of trying to unwind the power of the United States of America. I think a lot of guys, ironically enough, even guys like Charlie Munger, who were, I think that's what his name was. I can't remember. Anyway, Buffett's old partner. He was even super uber bullish of things like Alibaba and stuff like that and loading up the boat. I think George Soros was uber long Alibaba. And that nightmare has not ended. It is an absolute shit show over there in China. So how ironic. If anything, I'd like to see Mr. Soros lose a bunch of money. That would actually maybe knock him back down to earth a bit. Anyway, rhetoric. Um, so my feeling here is that we're going through the January barometer sort of cycle. And you can see in this week's newsletter, I included the January barometer from last year. So this was January's price action, this little yellow portion that you see right down here. And then basically just took the study and stretched it out over the year. And you tell me. And I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to show you these are the tools that I use to help me try and understand market state and where we're going. I don't know. Does that not look like basically what the entire year looked like? I think so. And there's obviously some disconnects here as we were working our way through the year, but it is interesting to see the latter part of this study. I think at this point, I think the market actually believed that Mr. Trump was going to win. And then interesting to see that, following sort of the end of all that sort of political, there was a bit of a pause here into the end of the year. And interesting how even at the end of last January, there was a bit of a pullback here. So it's remarkable how it's the old adage is just basically as January goes, so goes the year. It's not going to follow in lockstep, but generally speaking, it's a pretty darn good guide. So, with that said, interestingly enough, if we actually pull up January barometer studies now, they're looking a little challenging. Let's do this on a new. I think we'll probably, publish this study as we get near the end of the month, so we can get a pretty good idea of what January is telling us here. But right out of the gate, and this is on the S&P 500 spider depository receipts, down right out of the gate. And I do think that reflects sort of the uncertainty of Mr. Trump's sort of riding back into power here. You can see this is basically, so where is the beginning? Oh, yeah, there we are, 6:30 in the morning. Ding, 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 ding. So a little bit of an up. Then a pretty precipitous down. Then a big up. And now we're waffling here. And keep in mind, like we said, the inauguration itself is... maybe let's do it on this 4-hour chart here. So the inauguration is right there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of bump our way along, heading higher here. This is the first week, I suppose. January 9th, or excuse me, Thursday, 9th of January. This was Thursday, 2nd of January, so 7 days. And we'll see how that goes. If the first week is sort of like what the year is going to look like, there's the dump through sort of beginning of January. There's the rally into sort of the inauguration. Well, no, actually, I think this is the inauguration rally. This is the dump into the eclipse, which I think seems logical to happen. This will be the rally following the eclipse that March, the Ides of March. Usually that's a fairly weak window. This is the rally into May, June, sell in May and walk away. Then we should see a pullback here, and it'd probably be like soft. I don't think it's going to be too violent. And then we should see a rally into the end of the year, into the latter part of next week. Now will sort of give us that roadmap for the entire year. And then, like I said, I'm looking for the market to actually put in some sort of top through the inauguration. So I wouldn't actually even be surprised if this actually has to be a bit higher. So the inaugurate, this is a specifically to study what the first week price action looks like. But the inauguration will be somewhere over here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing sort of grinds its way higher. So coming out of the first week, it'll be interesting to see where we finish here. But I wouldn't be surprised into that inauguration that you actually see this thing come up. Probably fill in this gap up here. And then we'll roll back over. And my hunch here is the latter part of January. It should be a bit challenging. It should be a lot of this sort of back and forth kind of stuff. I don't know whether this year, and I remember specifically 2015, 2016 was the election year, and we had a huge buy signal that came in on the market in the beginning of 2016. I don't know whether that's the same signal that we just got. I don't think it is. I wouldn't be surprised if 2025, I don't think it's going to be crash. And if anything, crypto should do fairly well. But I would almost expect, especially considering that the stock market has moved up quite a bit over the past year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if, at least the first 6 months of the year are more of like a consolidation rather than, breaking and busting the new highs and stuff. That's kind of what I went. It was actually a really good reference, and probably a much bigger, better authority than Brian ever could be. Although I have no idea where I'm going to be able to find that. But Tom Lee put out a interesting. I don't know whether I retweeted it or not. Let's see. I might have it in my history here. But Tom Lee put out a really interesting piece here recently, although I don't know how to do this. Sure hope I don't bust this. I have a bad habit of screwing YouTube up. I totally derailed Chris there a couple weeks ago by jamming through a video when he wasn't here, and I completely screwed up the YouTube page. Way to go, Brian. Now where the hell would this be? Under history, maybe? I think I did it under here. Maybe actually we could probably just Tom Lee. Probably get a recent one. Okay, which one was it? 2 weeks ago, 1 day ago, 1 day ago. I don't think it was that close. I do. Yeah, this one here. And I don't know whether I like the it's over kind of talk of this video. But I did find it interesting that where the hell is it? I thought he made a pretty good argument. Oh, Jesus, now what have I done? Here. Oh, darn. I don't know whether it's this one or not. But anyway, this is the guy that I'm talking about. One of his recent videos, he made reference that he was looking for 60 to 70,000 on Bitcoin to the downside here in the short term, which I think makes sense. It's not outlandish. We go back to that Bitcoin chart, right? So that's just a pullback. Hopefully all of you, especially TRIers, you're familiar with Colin and the pump chasers. And frankly speaking, it's a perfectly good tool to use to help you identify trend continuation setups. I think you could probably make the argument there was a bot setup here. You see there's 33%. So that would be the typical. And that dump right there was down into 38.2. Into Colin and his pump chaser zone. I can show you that. Let's go. Where's Colin? Colin. There he is. Right. So 38.2 to 50%. You see, we did dip down here into 49,000. So into that zone. I don't see any reason why we can't do exactly the same thing again here. So just off of this smaller range, the teal box, 38.2 to 50%. And 100% of that range is this low here. I don't see any reason why we can't dip back down again against there. That makes perfect sense. If we draw a trend line off of these highs, that's probably key support going forward. And they always say what once was resistance often becomes support. So that's a really good reference. If you take a fib off of this high that we just made back down to this low, you'll notice it's a 61.8 to 78.6 retracement, or Brian's reload zone. And you could make the argument, setup that we like to teach at TRI, we call it the shark setup. That just simply says you're going to try and hunt entries off of 78.6. There is 78.6 of that range, and you want it to align with previous market structure, down, up, down, breakout. So I see a lot of perfectly reasonable, what's the word? Reasons, for lack of a better term, to look for a really sexy buy right in there, somewhere right around 65,000. Like I said, and I'm sure, and the irony of technical analysis is it's not like I'm making this shit up out of nowhere. So the fact that good old Tom Lee sees the same thing that we see, I mean, that shouldn't shock anybody. All technicians, anybody who's worth their weight as an actual technical analyst, can draw reload zones. And anybody who's worth their weight as a technical analyst appreciates mountain mans and lines in the sand. I'm sure they call them different things, but those numbers. And also too, good old Colin and his pump chasers. I mean, in the school program, I affectionately call this the Ray Burchett first stop target. And the rule is that we can't even really decide whether this market is actually topping out and making a big fat M, and that's the end of the bull, or is going to bottom out and actually create a trend continuation pattern, and we're going to continue the bull. You can't even come up with that argument until we actually do the 38.2 retracement. So expecting a move back down into 38.2s, you as good technicians, you should be all saying, well, I can't really make a decision as to what the heck's going to happen next. And is this trend actually going to roll over and turn into a bear until I see this 38.2 actually resolved? So what a surprise. Mr. Lee is looking for that pullback, and it makes perfect sense, right? In fact, old timers in the business. There was a gentleman who lived a couple hundred years. Well, let's call it 100 years. 100 years ago, and actually, I even have him in here, Mr. Richard Wyckoff, who was famous for actually interviewing all of the OGs that we love to study, guys like W.D. Gann and stuff. And this is what affectionately is called a Wyckoff check, and it's actually very business as usual, normal. So we should be expecting a pullback down into here. I'd also say too, you can see this trend channel. When we get down near the bottom of the channel, you should be thinking about, okay, maybe this darn thing's going to turn. And let's maybe make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. How do I do that? Oh, there you go. So there's the bottom of the channel, and I guess there's a top to the channel here. It's not what this one is. Top to the channel. There we go. So really, I might argue, we get up near the top end of this channel, you should probably think about lightening up. We get now back down near the bottom end of the channel. And actually, this is a really good example. Remember, I had said earlier, well, it was resistance. So you can clearly see how this was resistance on the way up. The market accepts above that level, and now it actually becomes support. So I think that's what's going on. Doink, doink, doink. Seems perfectly reasonable. So, in my little sort of rant here today, I think probably the most important thing that I said here is, for God's sakes, don't chase. Don't chase, don't chase, don't chase. And the interesting thing is that this is setting up where I could very easily see in the next 2 or 3 weeks, market's going to get all excited and all uppy, and oh my God, and fucking dog money's probably going to start moving to new highs and all that kind of stuff. And yet, what do you think the momentum indicators are going to be saying about this thing when we get up top there? My hunch is they're going to be like, well, you better be careful, aka divergence. Like, if I understand correctly, this is a weekly price chart, and we're starting to get our little divergence indicator starting to tell us, you better be careful here. This is on a weekly price chart. SpaghettiOs. So I don't like that. You can see how RSI is. Actually, I'm not quite sure what indicators we got working here. Willie, potential div, I suppose, maybe. Where did that go? I guess it went to new highs there, and then this was the candle that made a new high, so that created that div there. Not overly excited about that kind of study. Same thing here, right? This was the high. So what I want to see here now, which will start getting me to freak out, and then keep in mind, if we see divs on a weekly basis, oh boy, that's trouble. Don't really have it just yet. But what I think would ultimately happen here to set that up is if we have this market sneak up to new highs here and really, just be marching along that trend line. I've talked to you before about how I think this 200% of the top of the parking garage, this 2.618 and this 4.669, all of these levels really should be traded to. They're all perfectly valid technical objectives, and sort of, if you think about the market as almost like a symmetrical entity, it ideally wants to be in harmony. If you look at like a picture of a hurricane, do you ever see any of the arms of the hurricane make like right angles? No, it's all very symmetrical. So the bottom line of that is that these would all be symmetrical, very harmonic, very natural moves to be made. And I'd be very, very surprised that these levels wouldn't be traded to. And that's the one reason why I don't want to get overly bearish about this right here. I actually think that there's a trap that they're laying here. I think that, yes, they're going to take the market up into the inauguration. It's going to be a rah-rah Trump, a circle jerk, and little Trump Jr. there who bought his way into the White House. Lots of circle jerking around him. And then it's going to be like, all right, once the circle jerk party is over, and, if you've ever jerked, you know exactly what I'm saying here. I suppose just speaking to the males of the audience, what happens after? We all want to go and have a smoke, I suppose, but the party's kind of over at that point, isn't it? So I'd be very, very careful here about being overly enthusiastic, overly optimistic as we go through this event. And heaven forbid, on these damn weekly charts, if we actually go up and make new highs here and these indicators don't make new highs, that's majorly problematic. And the irony of it all is that this is just basically last year repeating itself. Remember last year in January, you can see this is exactly what I'm thinking is going to happen here. Is we push to new highs, then we have a pullback, then we push up, we make new highs, but look at all the indicators. OBV, that new high is not on new buying pressure. In fact, the buying pressure is actually very low on that push up to new highs. RSI, you can see how the relative strength index actually made a lower high here on this push to new highs. And then, of course, Willie, if you ever see Willie stupidly overbought, to be perfectly honest with you, you're an idiot for going and risking your money in the marketplace when you see Willie stupidly overbought. It doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a bull market and there's money to be made on the long side, but coming in and buying when Willie is stupid like this, you're just asking for trouble. And sure enough, that's what trouble looks like as we work our way and clean up that mess. I remember Gucci sweater wearers were coming out here talking about how easy it is to make money buying Bitcoin. Just buy it and forget about it and you'll do great. And that guy was pretty lucky, to be perfectly honest with you, that the correction was only down to here. He was damn lucky, because I know there are a lot of people that, don't really know what they're doing. They come and make these outlandish claims about the market and how easy it is to make money in the market when it's booming higher like this. And then the market rolls over and they literally could have contracts put out on their head, because that's what these stupid humans do when it comes to this money shit. So don't be in a big hurry to go and, call tops and bottoms in the market. You could get your fucking head handed to you. And, there's a reason why I don't tell you to buy and sell specific things. I've worked in the securities industry, and I know that this is the direction that crypto is going into. So if you get yourself into one of these situations and you live in the West, you might find that 5 years later, regulators come at you for, making outlandish claims. And if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember who it is, but if I'm not mistaken, I recently, I don't know whether it was I was reading or I saw one of these YouTube videos, but regulators are actually starting to crack down on people making sort of outlandish claims in crypto about getting rich quick and all that shit. So, the indicators, I think, are actually trying to speak to us right now. Here's the problem is are you actually listening? And most people, when you see the indicators like this Willie indicator, I specifically built it to keep me out of trouble. So the fact that Willie is sitting here officially on a weekly basis telling us that the market is overbought is extremely dangerous message here. Extremely dangerous. But, oh well, I don't know whether anybody will listen. And really, I don't care what you do with your money. You go and spend a whole bunch of your money and you lose it in the marketplace. Well, maybe next go around, you'll say, you know what? Maybe I, instead of just going and throwing my money away at the market, why don't I go and maybe take this guy's course and actually learn how to run a small business of trading with the expectation that your business actually makes money. And you learn how to run a business of trading rather than just sitting there going, oh, I think this will go up and let's go make money and, balls to the walls, all in, all that kind of talk. When an asset doubles, don't sell half and establish a risk-free position. Go and buy more, right? Which is terrible business practices. But anyway, you might learn. You might have to actually go and lose a bunch of money first, and then you'll learn. But I would hope that you come to me first before you go and lose a bunch of money in the market. That's why I'm so proud of Jim and Liz down there in Sacramento, because I basically put a challenge out to them. I said, be here for 1 full year. You don't even have to spend any money. Just be here and just watch and learn. And they did. And I'm very proud of them for that. You guys, at the very least, you should give yourself a pat on the back just for acting professional in that you just showed up every single week and took notes and basically, worked with, they've got kind of a secret weapon there with Adam in their back pocket. But I would say that the year that they spent just watching and learning, this was an incredibly valuable lesson learning experience. And how ironic, right? Gucci sweater wearers, by the time we got into the middle of the summer, Gucci sweaters were completely gone. You didn't hear them at all. And ironically enough, Gucci sweater wearers were actually right. The longer term trend still pointing up. Nothing's really broken down here. But just, you just got to understand, you just can't chase. You go and chase an up market like this, and you're probably going to be sitting there for 6-8 months. And like I said, this guy got lucky. A lot of times when people go and chase, the damn thing has to go right back down to where it started. I think the reason why that this wouldn't go back down to where the bull actually started was because, of course, this guy has gotten involved in the space. And actually, interesting commentary there. Like, as I said, Mr. Lee was suggesting that 60, 70,000 seems like a perfectly realistic technical pullback objective. We've got the Ides of March, and we have a pretty nasty eclipse window. And Cole Stradamus on our site has been suggesting that we have a number of different planetary relationships that are making nasty angles, aspects, I think they call them. That this could be a very challenging cycle pivot. What I'm worried about is the 1%. Keep in mind the 1%, I think, are at odds with Mr. Trump to a certain degree. Think Rothschilds, all that kind of shit. I have a feeling that they are going to manufacture some sort of quote unquote crisis that's going to get the politicians down in the States, because keep in mind, it's really the US citizen that's holding up this global economy. If the US citizenry themselves say, fuck you, banks, we're not going to take any more debt, I can guarantee you the banks will pull the rug from underneath this car. Pull the rug out from underneath this. How does that work? Pull the rug out from underneath the table. Anyway, carpet, you know what I mean. In a heartbeat, right? And it'll just be a 1930 scenario. They'll just stop credit issuance. And hey, hell, I've even heard some of these Democrat politicians, along with the banksters, even start to talk about, and also Alan, of course, chiming in, talking about the US actually could potentially have to declare bankruptcy here. Interestingly enough, usually the end of these moves is one of these major countries actually defaulting on its debt. I remember specifically in 1998, 99, that was the greed cycle apex. So that meant all the commodity countries were all absolute shit. And in 1998, the Russians defaulted on their debt. We never did have the US default on its debt, which is kind of interesting. I think that would have killed the US hegemony. And I think, frankly speaking, China, if from a wolf warrior mentality perspective, I think that's what they were rooting for. Interestingly enough, they could have very easily enabled that in 2008 if they had just simply dumped all their bonds that they had sort of been conned into buying in exchange for the slave labor of their society. But Bernanke came up with his funny little quantitative easing, and that whole QE program, in my opinion, was nothing more than to prevent the U.S. from actually going bankrupt, because the U.S. bond market was worthless and garbage, with all the CDOs and all that kind of crap. So anyway, the point of all that is, I think that there will have to be another debt ceiling raise. U.S. citizens will have to accept the fact that the banksters are going to put them further and further into debt. There's nothing they can do. Financial slavery, blah, blah, blah. And, I think Mr. Trump's ultimate goal here is to try and, drill, baby, drill. I don't know. The irony of it all is that probably what happens is, as soon as he actually starts getting production ramped up, and the United States can really start selling some serious crude into the world market, the price of crude will probably collapse, which, interestingly enough, should destroy countries like Russia. I mean, remember, 98, price of crude was $10 a barrel. Russia defaulted on its debt. The ruble absolutely. I mean, the irony of it all is, you think the ruble is bad now? Go and look at what the ruble did in the 1990s, following the collapse of the Soviet Union. So, and then, of course, the default under Yeltsin. That should also completely destroy, Saudi Arabia, probably they'll go back into the box. Canada, of course, hugely oil dependent. I wouldn't be surprised if China actually has to default on its debt. And you see a massive collapse in the Canadian currency. All of these things. And that's the one thing nobody's really expecting here right now. They're just assuming that oil prices will sit here at $70 a barrel indefinitely. And frankly speaking, $70 a barrel for oil is very, very high. But anyway, that's down the road. That's not today or tomorrow. So we don't have to worry about that stuff now. what I would simply say is try not to get sucked into the euphoria up top here. I definitely think that the market's going to move up. If anything, the place that you probably will be able to make some substantial money. I mean, you could maybe leverage trade, things like futures and stuff on Bitcoin, but the profit margins here are not really that big. If I have to spend like 97,000 and I at best maybe can take like 112, 113, okay, great. I just made 10 G's, but a little over 10% on my money. Well, the places where I think you can make a lot more money in crypto over this coming cycle are all these kind of funny stories. And actually, I've been pretty aggressively buying. I will have dogs. Don't get me wrong. It's just the way this silly game goes. But everything you see here on the blue, I have been aggressively buying here over the past, let's say 2 or 3 months, especially coming out of the election. And on balance, I banged out a whole bunch of doubles, but you can see I've got a dog here in the list. So this thing's a piece of crap, but it's just the way it goes. Nanny Nibbles, try not to take too much risk on any one single trade. So I'll be sitting on this for a while. I suppose if you did leverage trade this or you put a little bit size on that, you had to be like Joe Sixpack kind of risk manager. On the break of those lows, you got to get the hell out of there. I only put like $500 into this thing, so it's not really that big of a deal. Having said that, really good example. You will never be right 100% of the time, and there is officially a dog. That's the way it is. Having at the same time too, well, these little ones, I think they're worth taking a shot at. Something like that. It's not a bad looking little bottom. Same thing there. Stepped in on that one recently. This one here is actually moving up from the buy level. You can see all, you should be able to see the little W's here and go, I guess I can understand why that Beamish guy's buying. Or, remember I told you about that shark setup kind of idea, reload zones against previous market structures. So, over the next couple of weeks, these are the kind of markets that I would be expecting to move up here. And if we have some sort of like euphoric blow off top into that inauguration, which is still a couple weeks away, that would make sense. But I would consider it a selling window, not a buying window. And actually, this is one that I was actually contemplating. I might even go and buy some more of this. You can see this is actually a really good example. I've told you guys before, quite often you'll have markets dump down into reload zones, and then you look back at maybe a few months later. And keep in mind, this is like a 78.6 of a 78.6. So really cool level here. I always say if you can have overlapping reload zones, absolutely love that shit. So you can see how there's a cheeky little overlapping reload zone here. If I go like that. Yeah. So this little overlapping zone in here, oh, super sexy to me, right down in here. And what you often find after the fact is you look back and you go, son of a gun. Darn thing bottomed right off that damn 78.6 level. I see that so often. So, I was actually even ready to go and actually buy some more of this guy here if he broke out yesterday. It looks like the whole market's taking a bit of a pause here today. But we'll see. My hunch is Wall Street comes back from the weekend break, and my hunch here is they're going to be in a buying move. We'll see. Only time will tell. If anything, the one asset that I'm using as a proxy for sort of the strength of crypto right now, believe it or not, is Ethereum. As we were, I think I said just a few minutes ago, even in this video, if we were talking a week ago, I was kind of like, Jesus, this isn't looking too bullish. We had, think of like, I'm a big fan of continuation patterns. So A to B, and usually these things don't move in one step. They usually move in two steps. So like A to B, C to D. So I actually had a bearish setup here last week, working off of that failure and this bot setup. Where are we here? Bot trade. And there we go. So I actually shorted the fail there. it was through this low, and it turns out it was a trap. But it's trader's life. Get used to it. And so I even put a message out saying, well, if we break this high, then that means that setup is broken, and so I have to exit it and book the loss. It's just it's the way it goes. But if we actually go and break that high, then what ends up happening is that actually creates a bullish setup. So I think always backwards. So now I actually think we could have a bullish trend continuation setup off of that. And you never know. Market might come right back down and make a monkey out of me and break down here. It could happen. It's just, we are statisticians by trade, which means, and ideally, if I'm doing well, I'm shooting for 60-70%, somewhere in that area, which means by definition, I'm wrong 30-40%. So I hope you understand that. So here, where do I got it here? Boom. All right, so I actually got stopped out here and I instantly flipped long. And now I think that this bullish setup is working. So there to there. And then we'll just clone this. Make it easy. There to there. So, and this kind of aligns with things like Ethereum seasonality. There was a pretty popular guy on the crypto sort of space, Josh. Always butcher his last name, Ozlowski or something like that. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. We were passing around his video earlier in the week, and I think he did some pretty good analysis. And he was talking a little bit about the seasonal nature of Ethereum. Really, we should expect January, February, March, Ethereum should outperform. So that kind of aligns with that thinking. And then also, too, if we're thinking circle jerk into inauguration, that is that date right there. I don't know if maybe one of you on YouTube can correct me. Is the inauguration Monday? And is Monday the 20th Martin Luther King Day? Or is it Tuesday the 21st after that holiday? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you guys know the answer to that. All you Americans, we got a bunch of Americans in this audience. You guys should know. I would hope. So maybe you guys can help me there. I don't know if the inauguration is Tuesday the 21st or Monday the 20th. But I could very easily see that this bullish setup, that all that talk you heard earlier about me talking about the market working its way up into that inauguration, I don't see any reason why that can't pop into that event there. And because this is now gone and W'd, I think you can actually start drawing things like Foggenbaums. So we can do like chaos theory, and oh, what a surprise, 4.669 is right up against the level at which, that would be basically a break to new highs. And at that point, you can start locking in profits. And there's 877. I would not be surprised if the blow off top is into that 877 level. So keep your eyes peeled, sports fans. This thing's pointing back up now. I suppose the only thing that's missing here is we'd like to see the actual momentum actually start to turn back up here in earnest. If we look at things like indicators, I kind of don't like when MACD looks like this. You know me, I would personally would have preferred to see a nice well-defined W. The fact that MACD actually looks like this means to me that at some point we do have to have some sort of sharp break, and then to create this W, and then if it's a bull to turn back up. And I have a feeling what we're going to do here is we're going to, steamroll our way up. And then once we get here, then if we're all in divergence here, keep in mind, there's the old high. We might steamroll our way up. And then, of course, if we roll over and we go through that low, and I don't know, maybe this looks like an M, so who knows. If we go through that low, oh boy, all hell's going to break loose. But you can see, the oscillators. We'll do a trivia question for you here. They make this very, very simple for you. If I see two W's in RSI in a row, and the second W comes through the 50 line, which is right there. So here's the first W right there. And then this is the second W. It came in a little bit, but you can see the move through the 50 line. Should I be thinking bullishly or bearishly on this event? It's a pretty simple question, folks. No, that's a lot of compression in strength. I don't know. Maybe people on YouTube can answer me. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, so you can see how and I often tell you about like the first M, then the second M. Can you see the third M down here? This came in down here. This is the trap, right? So all the noobs, they all go short here. Oh, the sky's falling, and then they get like their hearts handed to them. Absolute crush. But I think you could make the argument this is the first W right down in here, and I would paint that like teal. And then the second W is this one here. And I think that's actually a very, very bullish signal. Very bullish. So I can't really come in here, though. You notice actually we're just banging up against the Bollinger Band midpoint moving average here. So I do think that we probably hit a bit of a resistance point. And you could also make the argument, I think that's the way Julian likes to trade his RSI. There is definitely a downtrend in RSI. And I think what happened here was the breakout of one trend here is all it's done is it said, look at, we've resolved through this trend line. That's this one. So now we have to go up to this trend line. That's what I think is going on. So this is that rally window. And my hunch here is there should be one more pullback. Sadly, of course, if we get another W here, that will be the third W, which means the noobs are coming in here and they're going to be coming right into the market, actually running into serious resistance. I thought that was kind of cool. And hopefully, that image, take a screenshot of that, right? That image right there, that's pretty telling. And, you see what the market has done here recently. That is really nothing more than us breaking from one trend line and working our way up to the next trend line. That's all that's going on here. All right. One level to the next level. That's it. So buy signal with all our cute little W's. Put it into context. We've broken this fast trend, and we're now moving towards sort of the bigger, higher time frame trend. And remember, I talked to you about Bitcoin. This is where it gets a little bit scary. Because if Ethereum prices themselves actually go up and break new highs, let's just for the purposes of this, we'll put these other ones away. All right. If in this window here, if Ethereum goes and it breaks out to new highs, what are we going to call that if we don't break this high here? Can anybody help me? What am I thinking? If we have price run up here, but price does not break these highs and stays within this downtrend, what do we call that? All right, Jim and Liz say 20th on a Monday. Is that the actual inauguration date, the 20th? So a couple of you, Adam, and are you guys, Adam, did you just open up your window and yell out the window? What do you guys think over there? So you remember you heard me talking earlier about Bitcoin, right? And oh boy, if we get a push to new highs, but our indicators don't go to new highs, is that trouble? And you can kind of see it developing here on Ethereum. Is that a pretty good tutorial for you people? Can you give me some feedback? So there's 62 of you watching right now. I don't know. Somebody maybe hit the like button if you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that is kind of a cool study on how to identify divergence as it's developing. You can see it happening as we speak. And the problem here is, what do you think the public's going to be thinking if we're up top here? Do you think the public is going to be like, uh-oh, we better be careful? No. Do we want to pull up dog money? What I'm worried about is a lot of these high flyers of recently. Whoa, boy, they really. I'm seeing this developing right across the board here. So like names like Ada. This is a pretty good one because this thing went absolutely crazy here recently. And you can see they are climbing the wall of worry here. We've worked our way back up top. But you look at your momentum indicators and you can see we have not broken the new highs here. And look at RSI. RSI is nowhere near new highs. Now, kind of our conversation about Willie, really good example. Again, this is the kind of stuff I'd love to see you guys, get out there in the world and tell people, geez, you got to listen to this guy. We built this indicator specifically that when it goes into the overbought camp, your best thing to do is cool your fucking jets and just calm down and relax and go take a cold shower, circle jerk if you have to, but don't go and spend your money in the market. Let this thing calm down. And you can see the W's that came in down here. I mean, if you'd taken a shot here, I wouldn't fault you. It's not a setup I would be interested in. But having said that, I think, based on these indicators, the way that they look, I think it makes sense why we popped up here. But I'll tell you, if this thing pops and we break this high up here, and these indicators do not make new highs, I mean, look at the volume. The volume is a shadow of its former self here. Where the hell are the damn buyers? This in itself is actually a concept that we teach in our education program. And if we get an up bar here, lower than this bar right here, and it's a green bar and it's lower than this bar right here, that actually becomes an outright, the bulls have fallen asleep. You better be careful. They are no longer driving this market. Now, you can see we haven't got that yet. But if we get, over the next week or two, especially if everybody's mourning Jimmy Carter and these things are slowly working their way higher because nobody's really paying attention and it's on very, very light volume, they could be setting one hell of a trap here, folks. Be careful. I'm very concerned. And of course we can look at things like dog money. And if anything, I think this guy here is probably a pretty good proxy on what the this coming administration and what this coming 4 years are going to be like. I tried to warn all you guys, do not chase up here. Had you chase, this is the same thing as Gucci sweater wearer kind of things. You don't know at this point whether goddamn thing's going back to zero and you're long from up here and you're like, oh my God, what the hell do I do now? Now, maybe had you just tempered your enthusiasm up here, my laptop's trying to take over the computer again. But maybe you had said, okay, you know what? I'm going to wait for a bit of a consolidation. And these indicators are no longer going to be stupidly overbought. And they're no longer going to be in divergence, which is the case here. So, all right, I'll step in and I'll take a shot down here. You got W's in your indicators, W's in your price. But the irony of all this is this actually looks like this trade's almost over. Oh, shit, look what time it is. God damn it. Where the hell did the day go? I got to get out of here. Ah, damn it. I screwed that up. God, it's incredible how quickly this time goes by. But hopefully you can see this like dog money there to there. So let's go settings, get rid of that. So we got A to B and then clone that. C to D. Do you see that this thing is basically, it's basically hit its objective or pretty damn close. Look at that, eh? So boom, 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 boom. All right. Hey, you should not be buying any more of this damn thing. If anything, if you were trading this, you should be ringing the register coming up in here. So be careful here, folks. And as I said, if they actually push this thing to new highs over this next 2 weeks, let's say off of like a daily chart, and you don't see these indicators going to new highs, oh Jesus, this got disaster written all over. Look at that. Look how much buying interest there was through this. I mean, look at all that buying interest. And now here we are basically at that same level, and there is no buying interest here. This is screaming a warning sign to you, folks. But I don't know whether you're actually going to listen. It's got trouble written all over it. The fact that we actually just banged into that downtrend line at that AB equals CD objective, I think that whatever the trade was off of this level has actually played itself out now. Now, if anything, kind of like what I said earlier, if you are interested in this, but I wouldn't be interested in touching this with a 10-foot pole, but you probably have to wait for some sort of consolidation. Give me 3 higher lows, and then we can start thinking about things like bot setups taking us higher. But for the time being, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. But I do think that it will work its way higher and create divergences here off the lower time frames. And then once we get to that January 20th event, which is right here, I would be damn careful. And if this thing has made a new high here on that event, you see it, look down at your indicators and you see that they're not making new highs, I would be like, whoa. So anyway. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to leave it at that. Like I said, I don't have a lot of time here, and I don't like driving after dark, and the sun literally goes down in the next 3 or 4 hours here. So I gotta head off and do my thing with the boy. I will quickly just take a look um, at the question that I saw posted here. Hi, Brian. I noticed you are using a Kraken exchange. How are you managing trades on this platform since they don't offer the option to do OCO? Yeah, I mean, the answer is I have to enter all the orders manually. It's a pain in the ass. They'll let you place a take profit order or place a stop loss order. This account doing primarily little old lady. I did do a Litecoin bot setup, and I'll tell you, it was a fucking pain in the ass because I had to like literally set alerts and literally sleep with one eye open the entire time I had the trade on. Did not like it at all. Did not resonate with me whatsoever. I just strapped on this Kraken trade, but I did it as a demo here for this site. And what I told the site was that if this thing did come back to the bot level, I'd strap on the trade, but I didn't want to chase it here. So as it stands right now, if anything, I actually want to see this Ethereum come back here a little bit. You can see where the bot entry is. You can see, you can see where I want to be long. And ironically enough, for the purposes of demo trading, I think I actually even had this thing on here. But I didn't want to chase. So, the actual trade got stopped out, and then the long triggered at like 2 o'clock in the morning or some crazy ass hour. So one down part that I really don't like about trading crypto, of course, is this 24/7 nature. And it's interesting how they're trying to jam this through in the stock market now too. And it probably serves the fucking Rothschilds and the 1%'s interest really well, knowing that the public doesn't, they're not up 24/7. So I told the community that if we do get a pullback and a buy signal off of the bot level, then I would join this trade on Kraken, and it will have to be done manually, which is a pain in the freaking ass. But what the hell? Live by the sword, die by the sword. That's the way it goes. You're absolutely right. Terrible. And crypto has never been any good for actually trading platforms. All garbage as far as I'm concerned. It's a whole bunch of computer people that have built these computer-based platforms based on how computer people act, but not really set up for traders, in my humble opinion. It's just the way that I look at it. There was one site, Tensor Charts. I did think that they actually set up their site and actually even reference that when we do our module on things like the counters ratio and stuff like that for the level 3 program and trading with the DOM. I do think that they set up their site from a trading perspective. But most of these exchanges and stuff like that, oh, their trading platforms are absolutely horrific, total fucking train wreck, and not built by traders, built by computer people that are, they're crypto centric, and it would make sense that that's the way that they are built. So I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. You can either, in this case, you can either place stops or you can place take profit levels. I primarily myself, I just set alerts on TradingView, and if my computer goes crazy, then I have to, load up the damn Kraken platform. Okay, where's the order supposed to be? All right, and act appropriately. So that's my direct answer to you. Yeah, I have to do one or the other. That's exactly. You're not missing anything. These crypto platforms are not built to service traders. They were built to service crypto people and computer people. That's probably the way that I would look at it. So hopefully that helps speak to that. Leave a sort of reply to this as to whether that was enough of an answer. If not, I can circle back around. Tomorrow, Monday, I will do a full broadcast. Friday's broadcast, because I didn't do one on Wednesday, was like 3.5 hours long. So I'm not really the type of person to put a stopwatch on this. I'm supposed to be out the door here 20 minutes ago. So this is a good example of what I'm talking about. So I think I'm going to leave the broadcast at that. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. Just let me know, Michael, whether you felt like this was suffice of an answer. If not, then we'll circle back around and we'll take another stab at it in the show tomorrow, which is behind the paywall, primarily for site people. And I'll do like a full market review because that's what I like to do. All right. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. Hopefully I gave you some stuff to think about with regard to crypto and the upcoming sort of fundamental catalyst event here with Mr. Trump. If anything, kind of aside, we'll leave off on this. I actually did get a double on this, but I was greedy and I'm shooting to sell up top into this wick into the actual inauguration event. So really good analogy. I might actually regret breaking my trading plan. Uh-oh. Don't like to hear that. But we'll see how it goes. But if anything, this is a perfect example. I think this thing rallies into the inauguration, kind of like it rallied into the election, but don't get fucking caught holding the bag. Once that event happens, then there's no reason for this thing to pump anymore. And it'll probably take a month or two to totally clean itself up and hit the reset button and do things like start Wing on the indicators after going crazy, stupid, overbought. So a really good analogy of this current market state. I'm long. The question ultimately is, when do I start ringing the register and taking profits? All right. Let's leave it at that. Have yourselves a great day. If you are interested in learning how to build and run your small business of trading, we have a new school term starting here shortly. You can still sneak your way in. In fact, actually, I had somebody yesterday who sent me a message. Brian, can I please get in? Can I please get in? Can I please get in? I was like, all right, fine. So get your butt on over to the site and get registered because new school term here starts basically in the next week or two. All right. Have yourselves a great day. Wish us luck on the roads. Oh, goodness. Wish Liam, let's be serious, a nice karmic afternoon. And I'm off to my real job now to put a smile on a little special needs boy's face. All right. All the best and bye for now.